Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Forex Bureau operators to enforce use of Ghana card for all foreign currency transactions from Thursday, the 1st of August. Also coming up, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwen warns there is no way Ghana will be able to meet its financial obligations without altering its fiscal policies and financing decisions.
If any future Ghana wants to discuss, then we should be looking at how do we cut down on wasteful spending, restrict the rise in governance costs, so that we're able to free up space for growth-enhancing spending.
Plus, fuel prices are expected to fall between 2 and 4% in the coming days. We have details for you. My name is Darryl Kwao. We'll be right back with more. Well, first up, the Bank of Ghana has announced that effective the 1st of August, that is tomorrow, all licensed foreign exchange bureaus will be required to demand the Ghana card before transacting business with any person. It's launched a centralized foreign exchange trading platform in line with this objective to ensure the integrity and development of the financial system. Here's George Affe with more.
Forex bureaus in the country, just like other financial institutions, are supposed to accept the Ghana card as the only means of verifying the identity of customers. However, it appears enforcement has been a challenge. But it appears the Bank of Ghana now wants to change this. It is therefore asking these bureaus to ensure that they comply with this new directive. However, when it comes to foreigners, the bureaus are supposed to accept passports. These are part of new directive from the Bank of Ghana that is seeking to ensure that all transactions done by Forex Bureau operators are carried out on this new trading platform. The Forex Bureau operators are also required to issue electronic receipts to customers for all purchases, which can easily be traced by the Bank of Ghana. The central bank in the circular maintained that this platform has also been integrated with the National Identification System to ensure that all purchases are done only by verified individuals. The public is also reminded that buying and selling of foreign currencies should only be conducted with Bank of Ghana licensed foreign currency dealers. The move is seen by some industry players as part of measures to try and deal with the recent pressures on the Ghana cedi and also check money laundering in that space.
Courage Buti is an economist and research lead at GTB Capital. He joins us on Zoom to make sense of this. Good afternoon to you, Courage. So, I mean, what do you make of this new directives? I don't know if they're new, but the Bank of Ghana to sanitize the industry.
Oh yeah, I see. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. I see clear efforts to try to sanitize the FX system and to leave a trail where Bank of Ghana can actually track who transacted what and even the sources of those funds and where it's starting from, where it's ending and all that, able to track it more effectively and also to implement the existing rules that we know existed, like collecting the Ghana card and all that. That a uniform platform that is linked to the Ghana identification system or something is actually supposed to bring a trail of the individuals behind the transactions and the entities they are trading with and all of that. I mean, leave a clear trail. I think that is what they are trying to do with this. What does it add to the existing system? Probably not much, but it brings about the whole issue of enforcement and visibility now. Now, sitting at the Bank of Ghana head office, someone can actually be looking at this real time and look at what the movements are, what volumes, what codes, and there is a unified system. So a Forex Bureau will not have the incentive to quote rates that are outside of the rules of the game, really. And so it brings everybody on board. It brings everybody to behave in a certain predictable way, which will reduce the volatility a bit. I am not very familiar with the system, and I'm yet to even engage my traders to understand clearly what the differences are. But I do think that if this system is able to even track the sources of FX, for instance, Forex Bureau A, B, C, or currency dealer ABC, where they are getting the FX from, how much they have declared as receipt, and what they are trading, and what is not being reported within that chain, then you can deal with the flows to the streets and all of that in the hands of the allergies. Because I dare say that it is these forest bureaus, it's these dealers that siphon or divert some of the flows that come to them to the street for higher gains and all that. So if we can track the sources and then also track where it's going, then we can be able to tell which ones are missing in the chain and how to deal with the entities that may be under reporting or maybe diverting these flows to the streets and all that. So that leg of it, I'm not sure if the new system takes care of that, but that is something I'll be more interested in knowing about.
Well, all of this, I guess, to check this, the depreciation of the cedi, which we are told now is being driven by sentiments and election-related concerns. So how much of an impact will this have in checking the decline of the cedi against major currencies?
Again, these rules are not necessarily new. Like I said, I think the new thing is the centralized system. Even that, I think the system they were using previously, the infinitive, or yeah, I think it has. I'm not sure that functions will be very different. Again, to put disclaimer, I'm not very used to that system, right? But I'm not sure it's very different. What this does, I believe, is that Bank of Ghana can be able to monitor in real time. The question becomes enforcement. If someone breaches, what do you do in real time to try to probably correct or sanitize the system? How do you enforce the rules that exist? Because the rules are there. Requiring Ghana card is not new. It's always been there. Probably now the system is integrated. But then there was a way of even linking Ghana card to the trade. Maybe the new thing is the receipt, where you issue electronic receipt for all the transactions you do. And then that again leaves a trail where you can trace the human being and what they are taking the money for and all that. If the declaration process is quite sanitized, then the incentive for the misbehavior in quotes that leads to the volatility, unwarranted volatility on the market can be curtailed. So it has the potential of correcting the frivolous demand pressures that drive speculation and, of course, depreciation. But it still comes back to how strictly we enforce it and how punitive deviations will be. If the cost of deviation is quite unbearable, then people are kept in line. But if it's something people can find their way around it, yeah, then it will be much ado about nothing, really.
Yeah, and like you point out, enforcement is what matters because we've seen some of these things announced, and then along the way we lose track of them. Final question, still to do with the cedi. The central bank governor admitting on Friday during that press briefing after the MPC meeting that we are still struggling with the local currency. He says it's being driven by sentiments and election-related concerns. I'm thinking, what's their outlook going forward, seeing that this is just a phase, isn't it? And then how soon do we recover, and would some harm have already been caused after this season is passed?
Well, I think we've gone past the 12, 13, 14 cedi to $1 levels. I think that one should sink in. There may be a correction, given the volume of inflows that are expected in the second half of the year from cocoa loan syndication if it's closed, and the many other sources the ministers are paying to list, which amount to close to 3 billion. It has the potential to trigger a correction, but there is also a trigger, right? An underlying factor that is driving the bearish sentiment, our election history and things related. At least on the positive side, the mid-year review shows commitment to discipline so far. The budget balances at the end of the first half of the year is not something to be so worried about. But then the test case again is in the second half of the year. That is where election expenditure seem to ramp up. And that is where if the signals of whether I may win, I may not win become clear, then you are forced to go into the overdrive to try to avert any negative consequence and all that. We want to see how government will remain disciplined in this period. Of course, they have revised the expenditure target down. They've expanded the revenue projection really, which for me is positive because typically government increase the revenue outlook to increase expenditure. But then if they are increasing revenue projection by reducing expenditure, it's a positive sign for me. So we look at execution. And I think if the signs are quite clear going forward that the fiscal side is looking good and there are some inflows to come, there may be some slight correction. But where would that take it to? I see us ending the year, and this is very subjective, right? I mean, dependent on even predictable and non-predictable factors. But I put my end year figure as 16.1 to $1. All factors constant, really, and it will depend on how the next few months ahead of us turn up. So there may be a correction, but not enough to bring it back to levels we would all desire. I think we are gone past the 14, 15 levels, 14, 13, 12 levels to $1. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Courage Poti, economist, research lead at GCB Capital. I appreciate your insights, as always. You're watching The Marketplace. Now, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwe has said there is no way Ghana will be able to meet its financial obligations without altering its fiscal policy and financing decisions. Government has started negotiations with external creditors on repayment of debt owed external creditors. Now, Professor Bokwe says if there is any future Ghana wants to discuss, then it has to be cutting down on wasteful spending and restrict the rise in governance costs. He was speaking on the Super Morning Show.
In 1993, under the Fourth Republic, if you look at the data, you will see astronomical increase in governance costs. The cost of operationalizing our democracy has been rising, manifesting in central government budget allocation and then also general government. Those costs are not productivity enhancing. So since 1993, that is the part that has been increasing. So you see government size increasing. Ministries, departments, agencies. Then you also see quasi-government institutions, the size increasing. All of that imposing fiscal costs on the taxpayer. When we are done accounting for our governance costs, then it leaves very little for growth enhancing spending, especially in the areas of capex. So if there's any future Ghana wants to discuss, then we should be looking at how do we cut down wasteful spending, restrict the rise in governance costs, so that we're able to free up space for growth enhancing spending. Winston, from 2010 coming, if you see the level of borrowing we have been doing, and you see the divergence between how much of that goes into investment, capex, and how much goes into recurrent expenditure, the gap is wide. And that is why we've done so much borrowing, but very little to show for. And that is why we say that in finance, it's not committed a sin by borrowing. If you borrow and invest it prudently in enhancing the cash flow generation capacity of the economy, the economy will be able to absorb the debt.
While still related to the debt crisis, economist Professor Elikpleme Agboyo is making a case for an African credit rating agency. He says it would help to develop the local financial sector.
So this is how I see it. Whether there's a bias or not, positive or negative, I think that having an African credit rating agency or a Ghanaian credit rating agency actually helps, right? It helps to develop our local financial sector. Because currently, very few obligors or borrowers in Ghana are rated, right? And one of the reasons is that the credit ratings are actually very expensive. So a lot of companies in Ghana, most of Africa, are not rated. So if we had an African or a Ghanaian credit rating agency that was quite affordable, that makes it easier for companies to have market access, to be able to issue debt and to borrow and to grow their companies. So I think that it's not about whether there's a bias or not. That is an important conversation. If there's a bias negatively against you, it means that investors will sell your bonds. When they sell your bonds, your bond prices will fall. When your bond prices fall, your yield or interest rate will increase, so borrowing cost becomes more expensive. Investors begin to flee your country. So we call it capital flight. They begin to sell their investments, leave your country. That causes your currency to depreciate. Once your currency is depreciating, it can lead to a banking crisis, like we saw in Ghana, and a full-blown economic crisis. So that conversation is important. Like the UNDP estimated, if there's a negative bias, it can cost us about $75 billion annually. But I think that beyond that, we should look at having more entities rated and giving these companies the ability to actually borrow. And it's not just about companies. The Vice President mentioned credit scoring. It's the same system, right? Using machine learning, we can predict what the credit score of a borrower should be, and that will allow Ghanaians to actually be able to borrow and invest.
Well, let's switch topics and talk about fuel, because fuel prices are expected to tumble between 2 and 4% for petrol, diesel, and LPG in the coming days. That's according to the Institute for Energy Security. This follows a slowdown in the depreciation of the Ghana cedi during the second week of July and favorable international market dynamics. Yes, more.
According to the IES, the price of petrol fell by 2.99%, diesel by 4.59%, and LPG by 1.10% in the second half of July 2024. This, coupled with a slowdown in the depreciation of the cedi to the dollar, the lowest since February, will bring fuel prices down marginally. The second pricing window for July 2024, for the first time since the post-OPEC Plus meeting, saw Brent futures dropping below $80 per barrel. This was driven lower by disappointing global demand as Chinese imports in July hit the lowest level in 2 years. Brent crude traded at $78.70 per barrel compared to $83.03 per barrel at the start of the pricing window.
You're watching The Marketplace. Let's talk tech up next. All right, lead for Eyes of Africa, Henry Kobler, is on Zoom with us to discuss the latest in the tech industry. We're going to be heavy on the telecom industry because mobile money transaction volumes and value largely took a nosedive for June 2024, according to data from the Bank of Ghana. The total number of mobile transactions dipped significantly from 668 million in May 2024 to 644 million, resulting in a 10.3 billion Ghana cedi drop in the value of transactions. Henry Kobler is on Zoom with us. Henry, what do you make of the latest figures?
Thank you very much, Daryl. So again, I mean, these are conversations we've currently had several times where we've spoken about the impact of e-levy on mobile money and how it's really going to affect the transaction levels, which is coming out. So it's really of no surprise that we're having this dip in the transaction volumes. I mean, I had to do a conversation with my bankers, and when I looked at how much I'm spending on e-levy, it's really scared me. I mean, if you had looked at the last 6 months of the transactions I've done directly from my bank account, and so if you're looking at all that money going into levies, it's quite scary again, because you're looking at this revolutionary innovation coming at hand. I mean, if you're speaking with people in the diaspora, they're actually very amazed as to how we connect mobile phones to payment and how it's really working within endings here. I mean, generally, I'm having a lot of remittances coming in from the diaspora into mobile money, and so if I have to be moving such monies around, you sort of have e-levies sort of on it. I'm sure that it's basically going to impact the levels of monies I'm going to have on mobile money, and so it's no surprise for the numbers that are dipping. And I mean, I think that there could be some level of improvement or a look at the percentage of the levies on the volumes of the transactions that we're doing.
Well, I don't know if that is going to take place anytime soon. And, well, isn't it convenient, mobile money transactions? And again, isn't this just a seasonal thing we are seeing? People probably will get around it.
I don't think it's seasonal. Over the past, I can say 4 months, I've worked on close to almost about 8 different applications. Now, these are applications that are all doing integrations with mobile money, just to make sure that clients can basically make it easy to make payments. And all of these integrators that we sort of working with are imposing the e-levies on them. Now, that's scary because, again, when you're having a lot of these applications trying to make it easy for transactions to go close, and you're having e-levies imposed on them. I mean, I'm not saying that the levies shouldn't be, but this is still revolutionary at it and still starting. And so we need to get to a peak where we can understand how better of this can transform the economy and also encourage other innovative ideas. And so for me, it's really going in the opposite directions for me if I'm looking at my transactions. If you're looking at the numbers very well, you'd realize that even with the mobile money vendors that are on there, you're quite having almost about 5,000 people joining within the time frame. But you're also kind of having a lot more people dropping off in being mobile money vendors. And that's a cause to worry because, again, it means that the people that are on the streets and are helping to promote the mobile money transactions, I mean, are sort of getting up the business because of non-profitability on it in terms of the number of transactions that are on. Now, if you're looking at the floats of the monies that are on mobile money, I mean, it's still marginally within the same point, okay? It's not really dropped. That means a lot of people are sort of keeping money on mobile money, but in terms of the movement of the monies around, that seems to be a problem. And so looking at all these data coming in, you sort of can understand that we're not doing too well, especially with how it had picked up. Quite a lot of people had gained a lot of confidence in mobile money and were sort of keeping money there as sort of like their banks and being able to move the monies around without having to withdraw these monies. And so for me, generally, I think that there should be some look at the e-levies and other transactional volumes to it, especially with how much we're looking at transacting generally.
All right. Hopefully somebody is listening. Let's talk about AT. AT has gained close to 100,000 new customers. That's what we are told. They gained that during the March industry-wide outage. That's some good news for AT.
Yeah, that's some good news for them, but I'm wondering what they're making out of the volumes which are sitting on the network now. I mean, looking at the network quality, the users are having, the data quality they're having, and the data pricing as well. I mean, this gains was out of some unfortunate incident that had happened, and it's just one time. And so I'm looking at how these people are sort of sitting on the network and are benefiting from the network's transactions that would be. I mean, does it translate into their mobile money? Does it translate more into their data services or call services? I mean, I'm looking at that data away since we don't have that. But again, I'm only looking at it as people are rushing there or rushed there due to an unfortunate instance. But what are the values that these customers who are now sitting on AT are getting? Again, in Ghana, we always realize that there are quite a number of people that are having 2 or 3 networks at the same time. And so what are the transaction volumes that are coming from these 100,000 people that have joined? Is it bringing more numbers, or it's just that they sort of have to switch to AT in unfortunate instances? Those are the data that I would really seek to see, enough to make some level of adjustment in what I could predict for them as a good number for them.
Well, here's a quote from the Director General of the National Communications Authority. He says, AT invested wisely and positioned themselves to take advantage of the situation. What exactly did they do?
I don't think, well, I might counter that, again, relatively, because they seem to have had been on a different route for their internet services. But again, I think that the competition is still out there for them. MTN is still doing way better, and other ones as well. So it's not just about positioning themselves to gain that numbers. But again, I'm sure that the other service providers are also now looking at this unfortunate incident and are putting in a lot more structures to curb that and also be ahead of the competition. And so just positioning yourself to just be in front for an outage is not enough. It's rather about how to keep these users, how to give them proper services and customer service as well, and also to be able to make sure that they're enjoying the data services, which is more paramount. I mean, there's been an outcry on data pricing. What are AT doing on data pricing? Are they giving some level of discount, or are they're giving some, some innovation in terms of the pricing model and products for the customers that have joined? I think that would be better off for them in going forward as well.
All right, one quick one on MTN, not in Ghana, in Nigeria, announcing the closure of all its offices and service centers for 24 hours. That was yesterday because of some incidents to do with vandalism. Do you hear about it?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate incident. I mean, when you're having citizenry moving away to vandalize properties when it comes to policies that are placed, I don't think that it's really in the right directions. I mean, it has to just be that some subscribers were deactivated based on a particular policy that was pushed out there. And in that outreach, you have people now moving to the offices to vandalize. I mean, I'm thinking about how now people have become very hyper to react whenever there's a particular policy. I mean, stemming from Kenya, I mean, that was revolutionary to understand that. I mean, people did not accept a particular policy and were out in the street. But I don't think that vandalizing and going out to hurt people is the way to go. So them closing the office relatively just showing how displeased they are, but it's only for 24 hours. I'm hoping that they would be able to get to restore most of the services of the subscribers. I don't think that they would do that out of sheer negligence because they want to get people off the network. I mean, they make money off these subscribers again. So them getting off is only because of policy, and they've given some level of guidelines to be able to get these subscribers back on. But I think that in general, my concern is really about how people get hyper attacking institutions just because of policies, and that shouldn't really be encouraged.
Shouldn't be encouraged. Thank you so much. A beautiful view from where you are, Henry Kobler, lead Eyes of Africa. Appreciate your time with us this afternoon on the marketplace. And so there is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. At one of our top stories, there will fuel prices to fall between 2% and 4% in the coming days, according to the IAS. Also, Bank of Ghana directs or Forex Bureau to check Ghana card during transactions effective the 1st of August. Check out the stories there, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwan. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.